See, I want to speak on Sharanagati, which is one of the most important concepts when you're in a spiritual process. And also one of the most misunderstood because the English word for it is surrender. And it's actually a pretty sad word for an awesome process. I've done one very famous video, How to Lose to the Guru to Win in Life, where I made acronyms of lose and win and all that. But even in that, nevertheless, I didn't come to that core concept of Sharanagati. Because there is something very important, there is something very, very core. If you want your spiritual processes to take off, if you want your spiritual processes to become powerful, if you want them to inhabit you rather than just being something that you occasionally interact with. Most of the time, that is the case. Our spiritual processes are things we do at a particular time of the day. They don't become internalized, they don't inhabit you. They should start living within you. The concept of Sharanagati is very important. Now, this has so many misconceptions, this has so many wrong turns or wrong beliefs about it that I think one should set the record straight and one should see, because fundamentally the word used is a very negative word in English. Surrender. You should surrender to the Guru, you should surrender to the universe, you should surrender to the God, you should surrender to the situation. While that is not untrue, the word surrender implies somebody has won and somebody has lost. Somebody has been beaten, defeated. So if you surrender, no matter how much you try to understand it in a spiritual manner, the thought in the back of your mind is, I am a loser, I lost. I lost and somebody else won. There is a very dangerous kind of hierarchy in it. There is a very dangerous kind of superiority and I am inferior, and our culture, unfortunately, too much of so-called good behavior is humble brag, display humility, cringing in front of people, pretending to be humble, pretending to be. So this whole notion of surrender, the word surrender, it is used in almost every English translation and it's completely inappropriate. It's the same issue with the word murti. I'm like, when you have a lovely word murti which explains the whole concept, why do you keep using this word idol, which in English means false god? It means something demonic. So the word idol should be thrown out of our vocabulary and only the word murti should be used because it means something completely different. It's a whole mature and sophisticated spiritual process. Similarly, Sharanagati is a process because the word has two components. Unfortunately, we look only at the first part of the word, which is where the word surrender comes. Sharan. Sharanam. We forget about Gati. It is, Gati literally means flow, whatever which moves. Jagat, that which moves. जिसमें गति होता है उसे जगत कहते हैं. Whatever is alive, whatever moves, whatever has animation, whatever has flow is life. Jagat is the world. So when we come to Sharanagati, it is a way of being in the world. It is a way of being in Jagat. It is a way of being in what vibrates. It's a way of being in flow. It is very clearly a flow. You all heard me keep saying Gano Karmanagati, Gano Karmanagati. So that flow, that unfolding process is what is called Gati. You come to Sharan so that you can activate Gati. Now Sharan only in one sense means surrender, not really true. It also means refuge, it means shelter, it means stillness. Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam, that is what Adi Shankara has said. Even though in the world, the final rest is maranam, death. So that it's a very complex concept therefore, because Once you come to rest, you can start moving. Once you come to stillness, once you come to Sharanam, once you come to Sharan, you can start moving. So what does it mean? Sharanam, what does it mean? Or Sharan, what does it mean? And Gati, what does it mean? Why in India, in all yogic traditions, is that Sharan mein aa jana? And not just, even the Buddhists, no, their famous profession of faith has got the word Sharanam 3 times. Yeah? Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. So they also understand the coming into the Sharanam, but the concept is actually Sharanagati, not Sharanam. Because Sharanam becomes only one part, it's not the full. Why do we come to stillness? Why do we come to refuge? Why do we come to acceptance? Why do we come? Okay, this is it. This is the point where I am still. Now, the Buddha had a very interesting concept. Anytime people would come to learn from him and they would be bubbling over with questions, and he had only one rule. Like, I will answer all your questions, but for 2 years you have to hold your tongue. You have to hold your peace. You are not allowed to ask me. You be with me for 2 years, you practice what I tell you. At the end of that, if you still have all these questions bubbling over, I will answer you. At the end of 2 years, nobody had any question. So he was literally putting them in Sharanagati. Come, be still, the process activates. The very fact was, because they were not still, because that mind and that thought and that desire to accumulate knowledge, it was a false kind of gati. He was shutting that off directly at the beginning. Certainly in that there is the implication that you don't go and do Sharanam anywhere. You go to a person that you acknowledge is your superior. You acknowledge that this person has access to something that I don't. This person has access to a vibration, to a skill, to a knowledge that I don't, and I want to learn from it. The problem is, we hedge our bets. We don't go. When I hear in India people say, "हम तो आपके शरण में आ गए," I'm like, complete the sentence, because, and here is my list of demands. These are the things I want you to accomplish for me, because I have come into your Sharana. So it is not an authentic stillness. It is a stillness that is conditional. It is a stillness that comes with anticipatory benefits. If I do this, I will get. And you sometimes see it. You sometimes see in these live interactions that these teachers have, where he gives some advice and the fellow actually asks, and फिर मेरा tender pass हो जाएगा. So when we have those kind of deals, then it is not real Sharanam. It is what they say. You are allowed for 3 years to test the Guru. But once you accept that this person is the Guru, you are not allowed to hedge. You are not allowed to have backup plans. You are not allowed to have some other option. Most people have backup plans. Most people have options. And most people also have tremendous expectations as to how the person should behave, should eat, should drink, should look, should act. None of those, you are not in Sharanam anymore. If you accept that this person can do something for me, you should stop. Just stop. Just stop all the thoughts, just stop all the projections, just stop all the... And it seems to be a universal problem. Just today I was seeing some quite funny spiritual guy, and he is being lectured. You should not use language like that. You are a spiritual person. You should not use language like that. You should ask forgiveness of these people. These whole... Why are you here? You are telling this person, I will honor you and respect you provided you fulfill my expectations of you. What kind of honor and respect is that? I think you're a spiritual person, now obey me. It is what Ramana said. No? They come and do one namaskaram and they think they have become princes of the world. They can dominate the ashram. So none of that is sharanam. None of that is coming into acknowledgement that here is something I can learn, and I can learn only if I become still. If I stop this constant chatter, if I stop this constant expectation, and even when we want to manifest something, even when we want something to be accomplished, if we are constantly scratching away at that, if we are constantly worrying about that, if we are constantly brooding about that, we know it doesn't happen. Transformation happens when you stop scratching, when you stop questioning, when you stop poking, prodding. How much will you? Because there will always be questions you can ask. There will always be more. There will always be yet one more thing that you wish to know. And at a certain time in life, you have to accept this is it now. I better start accomplishing things instead of finding out about them. But many people mistake activity for accomplishment. As long as they are doing something, they think they are also accomplishing something, and the two are not the same at all. Accomplishment requires that you integrate whatever has happened till now, and for that you need periodic stillnesses. So Sharanam, whether it is, the this whole notion of surrender is complex because, like I said, I've said this so many times, but it's worth repeating again and again. Once you have come into Sharanam, there is one big downside to it. There is one big emotional problem to it. What is that problem? No complaints allowed anymore. Yeah. If you say, I have surrendered to the higher consciousness, or I have come into the Sharanam of that higher consciousness, I am now allowing God or the Guru or whatever sacred Arunachala mountain or Ramana Maharishi to work through me, then why are you complaining? You are now in the hands of a better, more skillful power than yourself. Therefore, your life is playing out exactly the way it should play out. But of course, like I said, we hedge our bets. We don't. The very fact that people complain and people say these things means that in that sense the Sharanam is incomplete. It is imperfect. It is still with projections. It is still with expectations. The more and more you get out of your own way, the more and more you allow that energy to flow through you, the more and more you allow, that is when Gati happens. Gati means flow, but it is also vibration. You start vibrating differently, and change happens when you start vibrating differently. When your life vibrates, when your interior vibration changes, when your intensity changes, when your mind vibrates differently, your emotions vibrate differently, and they are all vibrations. We know that in yoga, that the whole purpose of yoga is to shift how you vibrate, to make you vibrate more intensely. From vibration you start radiating, so that in that word gati, all these complexities are covered in that word gati. The vibration, the radiation, the difference in intensity, the process. Gati is the process of transformation. Gati is literally the flow of energy that transforms you. That can start working and impacting you only when you become still. Only when you're not throwing up these boulders of questions. Only when you're not throwing up these expectations. Only when you're not, I will accept provided you first fulfill all my parameters. And that is the number one reason why people do not succeed in spirituality, because they do not go to learn, they do not go to change, they do not go to transform, they go to get validated. They go to get validated in their belief systems, they go to get validated in whatever they knew about these matters till now. Nobody goes there to change. Now, if you say somebody is your guru, how dare you then have expectations as to how they should act or behave. The argument is over. So that's why I say, no, for many people having a guru is like having the latest designer handbag. It is something to display. It is a social thing to show, see how evolved I am, see how much I am progressing. But if there is a problem, now of course the bhakti types, they believe, and it is the universal. You must surrender to God, then everything will be taken care of. No doubt you must surrender to God, but that doesn't mean that you must stop. भगवान का शरण में आने का यह मतलब नहीं है that you become paralytic, that you stop doing actions. You keep doing what you need to do. You keep doing what is necessary. But you do it in gati. You don't do it haphazardly. You don't do it all. You do it according to the process. You do it according to, see now, if you come to a certain temple, you come to a certain devta, you come to a certain guru, you come to a certain process, it does have certain parameters. Now if somebody wants me to put some energy behind something, since I teach the 8 spiritual breaths and I teach the whole Kundalini system, it helps me if you are also part of that stream. If you refuse to cooperate over there and you still want energy to be put into you, it is difficult. Because my energy naturally flows in certain parameters. And if you come into those parameters, that is what it means to come into Sharan. That you accommodate or you transform your parameters into the parameters of that place, so that there is no point going to Chidambaram Nataraja temple and saying, why is this not a meditating Shiva? He is a dancing Shiva now. Either you accept that those are the parameters. Now this is precisely the point. People go to somebody who is like a dancing Shiva and they want him to be. So there is no Sharan there. You have to accept the parameters. You have to accept the parameters. And that also is what Sharan means. These are the parameters in which the energy flows. These are the established, because see, these things are very ancient. 2000, 3000, 4000, sometimes 6000 years this energy has been flowing in one dimension. Now because suddenly you have come for your convenience, we cannot shift the entire stream. It is much easier for you to accommodate yourself rather than, there is the old yogic story that the king, out of comfort and concern for his citizens, said that the ground is actually so rough and it's full of stones, so cover the whole land with leather, so that people can walk without hurting their feet. Slaughter of animals started up. Then a yogi pointed out to him, is it not much simpler to just put that same piece of leather under your foot? Rather than. So when we say Sharan, when we say Sharanam, this is my stillness, this is where I am stopping it, we are actually saying this is what I choose. These are my parameters. This is my field of functionality. This is the sort of thing that I like. This is the sort of thing that I appreciate. This is the sort of thing that I feel I can move forward. So it is a serious decision. To come into Sharanam is a very serious decision. Now if you are one of those people for whom it is mandatory that your guru must be vegetarian and celibate, then don't come to a guy like me. That's not what people do. What people do is they start lecturing you, they start pravachans. You should not be like that. You should be kind. Who said? You're mistaking me for a Sufi. I'm a yogi. I'm not kind. I'm not passionate. I am hardcore. Because if you do not accept the parameters, where will gati happen? Now it must be my limitation. I do not know. It is my limitation that I am the lineage, I have the lineage of the eight spiritual breaths. Whenever I put my energy into people who have done the eight spiritual breaths, or whenever I try to do something in that kind of parameter, it works stronger for me. It is not possible for one person to have knowledge of everything. It is not possible for one person to be able to function in all the paramparas that ever existed. Everybody has to choose something that works optimally for them, and then they got to develop that. They got to put all their life energy there. Then gati becomes strong. Then gati becomes impactful. Similarly, when we are learning, that is why in yoga, yama niyama, these are the things that we will do, these are the things that we won't do. These are the shoulds, these are the should not. You have to fence yourself off, others, how do you grow? If you're constantly open to every nonsense, where is your personal experience? Where is your personal growth? Because any new stimuli that comes from outside can knock you off path. So you are given full freedom to choose. You can go all over the world, and many people never get over that. They're constantly hopping from one to the other. Which is the better path? Which is the better path? Which is the better path? They've learned 16, 17 things. Astrology, numerology, tarot, I Ching, aura reading, crystal. The minute you hear that, you know nothing, no skill in any one of them. Because the gati must be, and then of course all those multiple mantras and everything, because again you're causing 7 different gatis. If you're doing 7 mantras, you're causing 7 different gatis. How is it going to impact? So the problem with Sharanam is that because that sense of hierarchy, because that sense of inferior and superior, that sense of this person is dominating and I am powerless. Yes, that is a genuine problem. That is a genuine problem because that is the nature of our society. The nature of our society is hierarchy and dominance. The nature of our society is power. People try to get power, they bully their family members. As soon as they get into any kind of little bit of power, they immediately start exercising it. But that is not a problem with the original notion of Sharanagati. That is for adults, not for adolescents. Nobody says that you have to demean and humiliate yourself because you have come into Sharna. Most people think that is what it means. And the language is also such, मैं तो तुच्छ हूँ, मैं तो वामन हूँ, मैं तो आपकी चरणों का धूल हूँ. This is the whole language, isn't it? Yes, when you find somebody who activates you, when you find somebody who can transform you, there is immense gratitude. That doesn't mean you got to start cringy. That doesn't mean that you got to start all this vocabulary of pathetic words. Of course there is gratitude. How else can you grow if there is no gratitude? But where is it said that you have to negate yourself or efface yourself? You are merely acknowledging, here is this situation, here is this temple, here is this devta, here is this vital being, here is this human being who has access and who can teach a different vibration than I currently possess. Let me stop scratching around like a dog that has forgotten where I buried the bone and let me just sit with this person and see what this person can give me. And that is gati. The organic flow, you see, people wonder why do they say, because if you set your will up in opposition, you are interfering with the gati. Why do they say no matter what the teacher says, you just obey it? Not because there is any ego issue there, but merely because that helps in the gati. Now, we have people who are progressing so much that even before the workshop is over, the snacks are handed out nowadays. Our gati is on fast forward. I'm like, hello, when did I say it was over? So that is a misunderstanding of gati. when you when you become, for want of a better word, obedient, but actually it is sharan. When you remove your personal will from the equation, whether you know it or not, it is not the teacher or the guru's will that is flowing in you. After that, the entire Shakti in that lineage, the entire Shakti in that parampara flows. Everything that has been accomplished can flow through you, sometimes much more to you than even to the teacher. But as long as you have your personal will, as long as you have your personal opinion, as long as you have your personal... So, they understand that. They understand the discipline. They understand the discipline that if you just take your personal ego out of the equation, you might sometimes get much more than the teacher. But people don't look at it that way. They look at it as this is a control and dominance mechanism, which very often it is true. I'm not saying it is not true. But I have learnt the very, very hard way that if I oppose what my guru says, that makes my life difficult. If I go along, it makes my life much easier. And everybody has to learn that. Until you get your hands burnt a few times, you don't realize that. Then you begin to pay attention. Then you begin to pay very, very close attention. Because it is not about the personality of the teacher or even the personal skill of the teacher. It is about the fact that when you are in gati, depending on your receptivity, you may actually get more than what the teacher has to give you. Merely because you have come into Sharana, you have become still. What is that affirmation we have? I wait, I listen, I look within, I am still. Sharana. That is what it means. Sharanam, that is what it means. Just wait, listen, look within, be still. I said no, all of yoga is in those four phrases. I keep saying that. All of yoga is in those four phrases. The minute you do that, you wait, you listen, you look within, you are still, gati happens. What does gati mean? Gati means the flow of life. Gati doesn't mean the skill, the pranayama, the meditation, the asana. Gati means the flow of life. The entire energy that makes things alive starts flowing in you. You start vibrating so differently. But people don't understand these things. People think this is an ego trip. I will surrender. The sooner you surrender, the better. Not surrender, Sharanagati. The sooner you learn Sharanagati, the better for you. The more you resist, the more difficult it gets. Then finally you will end up having a teacher that you will really feel embarrassed. I have to learn from you. Because that is the way the universe gives you chabi and sets you up. What is the problem? What is the issue that we need a person to be, or we need the situation to be a certain way? Are we going there to transform, or are we going there to change matters into our view of the world? If our view of the world was so perfect, why are you going to that person? If what you knew was already so spectacular, why are you going to learn from this person? There is a contradiction there somewhere. No? You know, even in the Bible, Jesus himself said, "Not my will, but thy will be done." That is Sharanagati. It is perfect understanding. My limited human understanding of 30, 40 years may not have the optimal knowledge for the situation or the optimal skill for the situation. If I just move out of the way and I allow the Shakti to flow, I allow the force to flow through me, something much greater than mine can happen, which for want of a better word we call God or the force of the universe. The problem is we consider ourselves to be the center of the universe. Somewhere deep within all of us we have the conviction, I am actually pretty hot stuff. And yeah, the world is for my convenience. The world can do very well without you. Yeah. You keep hearing nowadays, we must save the planet. No, you must save yourself. The planet will do fine without you. Yeah. Like if you've seen pictures of Chernobyl today, it's quite extraordinary to see. It's been how much? 25 years since that accident at the nuclear power plant. Chernobyl in Russia had a meltdown, and it's amazing. The whole place has been taken over by forest. Wild animals, wolves, bear, boar, eagles, they are all thriving in spite of the radioactivity. In just 25 years, what is a nuclear power plant has become forest. So the planet doesn't need our help. We need the planet's help. The planet can take care of itself perfectly. It's just extraordinary to see. It looks like for thousands of years there have been no humans there. It has just become, and still in the middle that concrete road is there because it takes some more time for the concrete to go. Basically just thick forest. In just 25 years it has reforested itself, and wild animals have come with apex predators. That's the only time it takes. When the Europeans landed up in South America and North America, the diseases that they brought with them decimated the planet, decimated the entire continent, both North, South, and Central America. So many cities were just wiped out in space of 3 to 4 years, and then the forests reclaimed those cities so fast that there was actually what was called a mini ice age. The number of trees that came up, it removed so much carbon dioxide from the atmosphere that the world cooled for a while. So the early parts, 1492 was when Columbus discovered America. The early parts of the 16th century, we had like some of the lowest temperature on record because the trees came up that fast. So the planet has its own gati. We have ego. We have ego in these matters that we are going to do something. No. If you keep harassing the planet this way, it will just shrug you off one day. Because again, there is no sense of stillness with the planet. There is no sense of sharanam to the planet. There is no sense of gratitude to the planet, which actually should be the most important thing, the core thing. Just the fact that we are alive on this quite extraordinary little blue marble in the middle of space, which is neither too hot nor too cold, and life is possible. We don't realize the sheer staggering magnitude of it, the sheer improbability of it. That how fantastically precious life is, We don't realize that because there are so many important other things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. We just have no gratitude, which is why that thing that we are doing, that ritual that we do where we acknowledge Akasha, it is just to get back into that habit of Sharanam, not just to the planet but to the universe. We need to acknowledge that. That is actually Sharanam. Once you come into Sharanam, it is always that the Gati will happen automatically. Then the Akasha starts flowing automatically. And the more and more you come to the Akashic vibration, the better and better the life becomes. So these are all very ancient things, and they understood that yes, whether you do have gratitude to the Guru or to the temple or to God or to your family or to your country, at least be grateful to your planet, because it is making your life. That is the one thing we don't. Today, of course, there is a whole Gaia hypothesis that the planet is a living organism. All those are good things. Because now finally we are thinking in terms of we are all in this together. Not just human beings, but trees and plants and animals and even cockroaches. We are all in this together. We need to have that kind of consciousness. Because we do not have that gratitude to the planet, that is why we exploit. That is why we do things like fracking, which is basically pumping poisonous gases into the ground so that the deep layers of oil and stuff causes real contamination to the environment. If you are in Sharanam, you cannot do a thing like that. If you are in Sharanam, you understand something even deeper. If you have come into Sharanagati, you begin to understand how alive everything is. And even when you put your feet on some place, you become careful. Certain parts of the planet, secret spots, that vibration, that numinous vibration is much greater. Arunachala, for instance, whenever I go there, I'm like, where do I put my feet? Because everything is alive. And that understanding is possible only once that Sharanagati happens. The more Sharanagati happens, the more you begin. Gati becomes more. Your understanding, your experience, your knowledge and your transformation, your internalization of Gati becomes more and more and more and more and more. And you begin to see the flow of energy everywhere. You begin to see that everything is just vibration. Yes, a place like Arunachalam, a place like Chidambaram temple, it is different because the vibration is so intense, even if you are completely thick, you can still feel it. But the more you go into Sharanagati, the more you realize that the whole planet is just a vibration, all life is just a vibration. So the surrender is, one must surrender to something. So surrender to something worthwhile. Come into stillness, come into refuge, something worthwhile. Now if you come to a beautiful thing like the Shiva Nataraja, that's lovely. That's a way to come to something that is beautiful, to something that is worthwhile. Or you find somebody who is, so you find that this person is really evolved, this person is certainly more evolved than me, or this person has certain level of vibration that I don't have and I would like to learn from this person. Why not? What is the problem with surrendering to that person? The problem is ego. Because deep everywhere we feel, yes, all very good, let people start surrendering to me. मेरे शरण में क्यों नहीं? Why aren't people? But it was not power games and it was not control. I can tell you that. They are not interested. Authentic teachers couldn't care less. They couldn't care less about your humility and your devotion. Most of the time it causes problem for them. Which is why as soon as they become little bit famous, they have hatta-katta bodyguards all around them, preventing people from jumping on them and grabbing energy from them. In Ramana Maharishi's ashram, the first rule that everybody came was that don't touch him. So people think that this Sharanagati is all about touching feet. No. I explained touching feet. Touching feet is because the feet are big chakras. You can take a lot of healing energy from the feet. That is the reason why. It is not about demeaning yourself, it is not. But you must understand, Sharanam is not Sharanam. The stillness so that energy can flow. The minute you understand that, Sharanagati becomes easy. Anytime you go to a temple, anytime you stand before Murti of God, this is a dynamic process. I become still so that the energy can flow, so that I can experience the vibration strongly, so that my vibrations can come up to that next higher, more powerful level. Gati, 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 gati. Because gati is life. Jagat. Whatever moves is life. That was the original yogic sense to Sharanagati. Most cases we have come only to Sharanam, and we have come to Sharanam in a sort of power struggle, which is really sad way of looking at it. It's just a very pathetic way of looking at it. And if somebody is safely dead, then we have no problem going to their samadhi and weeping and putting our head over there. If somebody is alive, then we have a lot of problems. Look at the way they are behaving. So teachers knew. Swami Vivekananda, very famous. He would smoke cigars and he would walk up to the women and he would blow the smoke into their face just to see whether they actually have surrendered or they are still going to project all those cultural behaviors, because in those days men wouldn't even smoke before women. They would go outside and they'd smoke. And he'd deliberately do something outrageous like this, just to check. Even today it sounds shocking. Can you imagine in the late 19th century how much it must have horrified American and European women? And it was just very simple. Are they really saying that? Do they mean it when they say that we accept you as a teacher? You can just imagine if I tried something like that, what the responses would be. It caused a lot of trouble. But those who understood, they understood. They knew that this was, but see, he was always a guy, he didn't care. So, if people are going to get like that, good. And I don't have to deal with these people anymore. And I don't particularly care. I don't like tobacco, so that's not an option for me. He did. That was one of his big. Nobody can force you into surrendering. Yes, some people do use the force of personality, or they put you into a very hypnotic kind of trance because they have these lovely mass meetings and they have music and they have lights, and all that deepens your suggestibility. If you're in the Nazis knew that. They had all these rallies in twilight with torchlight parades and beautiful illumination. Those kind of things do make you more suggestible. But that is not authentic Sharanagati. That is external stimuli manipulation. Real Sharanagati is always a conscious choice, a mature conscious choice that you make. And if you can make it, it will transform you. And I am saying the reason why people don't grow in yoga, no matter how sincerely they do the processes, most people don't do the processes sincerely. That is an entirely different story. Let us keep that for another pravachan. Most people don't do the processes sincerely, but in spite of doing the processes, why are they not moving? Because the Sharanagati is not working. The Sharanagati is the core. The other things just help. They are all techniques, tools, methodologies. But till the Shakti, till the force starts flowing, till the Gati starts, you don't vibrate differently. You don't transform until the Shakti starts flowing. And why is the Gati not happening? Because the Sharanam is imperfect. The Sharanam is conditional. I will accept, but please do these things for me. Or, there's the whole shopping list. No? There's a whole shopping list of things I want accomplished. And then I will accept. Then I will transform. So if you look at it that way, it has nothing to do with ego. It has nothing to do with superior, inferior, dominance. None of those things. It is merely a very, very sensible, conscious, willed act that you do so that the flow of energy happens and you transfer. So that all the processes that you do, so that the breathing that you do, the meditation that you do, so that the asanas that you do can really bring you to a more intense state of vibration. Because you have to acknowledge something superior to yourself. Not to do so is idiocy. Just look at the world, and the world is so much greater than you. Just to not understand that. You don't have to acknowledge a person is superior, but at least the world is superior to you. The world is so much vaster, greater. When we look at something beautiful like the Himalayas, we feel that. We feel that sense of sublime. We feel that sense of majesty. We feel small. We recognize this is awesome. It inspires awe, prachand. So why do you go into Sharan to somebody who is not prachand? You should go only to Sharan to somebody who is prachand, who inspires the awe. Not the same as dominant personality. That's different. Many film stars have dominant personalities. You shouldn't go into Sharan with them. Yeah, that's your brains or your sensibility as a yogi. And why not come into Sharanam? There is this opposition, this resistance to coming into Sharanam says a lot about how much you value yourself. You may be valuing yourself way too highly. You may be thinking that you're in a state of evolution which is not true. Nobody is saying that you're inferior, nobody is saying that you're mediocre, but you are not at the pinnacle. Very few people are born at the pinnacle. To acknowledge that there are others ahead of me on the path is just sanity. To acknowledge that there is a flow of energy that can transform me is greater sanity. These are the two things that people have the greatest difficulty with. What do we do in that situation? The biggest problem is here. People with their mouth say, oh, we have Sharanam. And then they have parameters, they have projections, they have rules and regulations. You must be this way, you must do these things for me, then and only then. That's not Sharanam. That is bargaining. That is a transaction. That is not Sharanam. You cannot really, as long as you have that transactional aspect, you cannot really benefit. The minute you give that up, you don't even have to give it up 100%. Even if you come to 90-95%, you will be astonished at how you transform, because then gati can happen. The flow of transformational energy can happen, which is actually what gati means. The flow of transformational energy. Now, most people don't understand these things. I don't blame them for it. But at least all the cultural misconceptions about Sharanagati, people like us should not have. People who are in yoga should not have. The larger culture may have, but at least the people who are in serious sadhana should not have. Yes? Sarvam Sham.